Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Modern Open in Indianapolis. I'm Nick Miller alongside a familiar face here, Matthias Hunt.
Yeah, familiar. You know, I don't know if I've ever actually been in the sideboard before. I think I've always been like a play him in the main deck or don't play it at all kind of commentator.
Yeah.
So this is very new. I like it.
Welcome to the sideboard. We're used to seeing you in the booth, of course, calling the action. But you and Ryan are both battling here today, as Patrick and Cedric are in the booth for once. But you have been on Primeval Titan for about like 6 years now,
right, so we're
something.
making Primeval Titan great again. So actually, this is a list that back when it became clear that Summer Bloom was going to be banned, I was working on this list for a while. I first played it the weekend of SCG Regionals, but there was this other broken deck that was even better than the broken deck I had, which involved Eye of Ugin and Eldrazi Temple. So we kind of had to shelve it for 3 months.
Yes, everything had to kind of go by the wayside during that 3-month period, but we're back now in a safer format. We have some unbannings, some bannings, and now we have this Valakut deck that you have been on for quite a while. You've written about it in the StarCityGames.com newsletter, and you and a bunch of people from Michigan, Minneapolis are kind of joining together to play this Valakut deck, and you've been a pioneer behind it, so we figured you might as well talk about it.
Sure. So Valakut's a strategy which I've been on for a while. I love lands. Generally, when you have a land-based combo deck, what it means is you're going to be slower than a lot of your unfair decks, but you're going to be great against mid-range and control because you're not good at Thought Seizes aren't good against you because you're just making lands. Counter spells aren't good against you. Removal is not good against you. You're just going to win. This deck is 4 Valakuts, 2 forests, and every other card is either a fetch land or has type mountain on it.
Yes.
So you have a lot of inevitability built in.
Right. A bunch of Valakuts, a bunch of mountains, and then a bunch of way to find those mountains.
Yeah.
Notably though, no scape shift in this deck, and that's the kind of the big tension point amongst people who are playing this type of deck. There are the scape shift people, and then there are the through the breach instead of that, kind of just going all in on Titan.
I'll just be upfront. I think this is just better right now. Okay. So you might be like, okay, why are you playing something like Through the Breach? The only card you want to Through the Breach is Primeval Titan, and my answer is yeah, I know. Games where I've resolved a Titan trigger, doesn't matter if they killed the Titan, if I breached it, whatever happened. If I got to go search up 2 lands, which is probably 2 Valakuts, I haven't lost any games on the day. Like, you just don't really lose this.
Right.
It's about getting up to the Titan maybe. What I like about Breach is that it gives you, unlike Scapeshift, it gives you access to some fast kills. So a turn 1 search, a turn 2 any other ramp, you could turn 3 Breach a Titan. If you have a Valakut in play, that's 24 damage. So you have a turn 3 kill. It's not that common, but there are matchups where being able to breach them on 3 or 4, like that is my game plan. You know, if I want to beat Tron, if I want to try to beat I just beat Burn last round. Burn's really fast. If you're playing Scapeshift, you're not going to race Burn.
Yeah. So you have a avenue to a victory against all the unfair decks where Scapeshift normally does not. The
red Scapeshift deck is normally bad against these really fast things. Stuff like, your Infects, your Storms.
Goryo's Vengeance.
These are all bad matchups. Yeah. And they're not great here, but a lot of things I've done with the deck is I've taken those matchups from like 30% and put them into the 40s.
Sure.
And I think we got to keep our 60s against Jund. So that's like why it's good now.
All right, so we'll go over it. We've seen all these pieces before. Farseek, Secure Tribe Elder, Search for Tomorrow. These are your ramp pieces that we all know and love.
Yep.
But you also got some new ones in here from, Oath of Nissa and Pia Kiran Nalar here hanging out. So you got a little bit of mid-rangey action going along with Oracle of Moldiah too.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in the card Oath of Nissa. So one of the things that I want to do with the deck is, okay, if we're only going to Through the Breach Primeval Titan, I want Titan in my hand just every game. So I have 4 Titans, I have 3 pacts to find, and I just packed for Titan. Let's be this is not a toolbox card in the deck, it's just more copies of Primeval Titan. They're just worse versions of it. And then we have Oath of Nissas, which it's actually pretty interesting in the deck, because our 2 main cards are Valakut and Primeval Titan, and okay, it finds both of them, and sometimes it even finds a Tribe Elder, and that's great. So I was playing Oath of Nissas to find them, and I got to that point in the deck, and the cool part is that once you have your Titans and your ramp spells, you still actually have some slots left over to work with. So I was like, well, how do we make this good against maybe some of our worst matchups? And this is where a card like Oracle of Moldiah, which is a great card just in strategy in general, and Pia and Kiran Nalars, I have 2 copies in the main actually, really come in here. So by playing a creature or a land in these extra spots, you get virtual extra copies because you're playing Oracle. So like say Infects, a matchup that's still not great, it's not unreasonable for you to say turn 1 Oath into Pia and Kiran, turn 2 Farseek, turn 3 make some Thopters.
Sure.
And because my deck will win on turn 4 or 5, maybe that's all I need to get to that turn. Yeah. We had that on camera. I think Max McVitie was playing against Infect and took a game by fogging up with Pia and Kiran.
Lightning Bolt buying you some time in the meantime while you get there.
Yeah.
So. yeah, you can kind of clog the board the way like Lingering Souls does against Infect. They have a hard time getting through the flyers.
Yeah.
So, all right, you already mentioned Summoners Pact along in conjunction with the Oath to find you your Primeval Titans. Through the Breach you mentioned Lightning Bolt. All this just good stuff, very to the point. You know exactly what you're doing.
We are getting mountains and Valakuts. That is all we're doing.
All right. So let's talk about the stuff you're kind of worried about, sideboard-wise. You know, I imagine things like the ways to get rid of Valakut are pretty bad for you.
Yeah.
Getting rid of Primeval Titans is pretty bad for you.
So you mean like there are some effects which search your deck and strip a card out of it.
You know, Slaughter Games, Sowing Salt, those types of effects.
Yeah, they're not great. So this is where, like, if they Slaughter Games our Titans, that stinks. We can still make some Valakuts and like get some Oracles and Farseeks, and it really depends on what deck it's coming out of. Like against Tron, Slaughter Gaming our Titans is probably game over. Against Jund, like, I could still beat that. I could just make some Valakuts and start sixing them with my lands.
All right.
Sowing Salt, yeah, you have to watch out for that. So what you'd have to watch out for is, first of all, you frequently can get Titan out before they can cast Sowing Salt. So then we don't care. You want to make sure that when you play your first Valakut, you get 2 copies. So that's either Titan finding 2 Valakuts, or it's Oracle drop 2 Valakuts in the same turn. So then even if they Sowing Salt, you have 1 left over. And we actually have 12 non-fetchable, like 12 physical mountains. So even if 1 Valakut, you could get there.
All right. Yeah, so you still have a way to win the game if they do it, if you you know, sequence your game correctly. So moving on to the sideboard, you got a bunch of stuff that we're used to seeing here. Anger of the Gods, great against the Abzan Company deck and all the little swarm decks. But you also have an artifact package here between Grafdigger's Cage, Relic, and then 3 Spellskite.
Right, so really what the sideboard is when you're playing this deck, like, you have some bad matchups. They're all the degenerate decks, so you just go down the line and you say, what are each of these cards for? Okay, Spellskite is for your Suicide Zoos, it's for your Bogles, it's for your Infect. It's a single, like, you could play some Chalice of the Voids there too. I think Spellskite's a better card, but like, a mix could be fine. You need some number for that matchup. Abzan Company's a pretty close matchup, and I wanted to put some cages in my board because I think it's the best deck right now, and I really expect to play against it. So I overloaded a bit. I didn't really want to lose against it. That said, I mixed it up with some copies of Relic because I can Relic against Jund, I can Relic against Jeskai, and those are matchups where I have some really bad cards in the main, so I needed a couple extra things to throw in.
Right. Then, of course, you have kind of some of your own hate against the other lands decks between your own Crumble to Dust and Sowing Salt.
Yeah.
Tron and, I assume, maybe the Mirror.
I played 1 of each, so it's actually impossible for us to have 4 lands in play without having double red. So I ran a 1/1 split, it doesn't matter. 2 of those effects are fine. Yeah, any other Scapeshift deck and Tron. Because we have this like mid-range package, we are probably bad against the other Scapeshift decks. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be close, but the changes we made us worse in the Mirror.
Sure. All right, and then lastly, you got a Reflector or a Reclamation Sage to blow up Blood Moons and things, which
Blood
you can
Moon's
find,
white ley lines,
which you can find with the Pact here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's a 1 of. I want it to be a creature that was green, so you can Pact for it, you can Oath for it. 1 copy, I wouldn't run more than 1.
Yeah. Then a bunch of Obstinate Balos, battling
Burn. Jund, even stuff like Hate Bears. 4/4 is just big. I would say the 2 biggest cards that you'll board in the most are Angers and Baloths. Those come in very frequently.
Yep. Yeah, how does the Hate Bear matchup play up? Because I imagine Aven Mindcensor was kind of a nightmare for this type of deck.
That one's beatable. Lane and Arbiter is less beatable. I think because like 20, 30 cards say search my deck. So you have to kill it or you lose.
Sure.
You know.
Right.
I mean, that said, you are a deck, like a deck full of 2/2s is bad against a deck of Bolts, Angers, and 6/6s. So like, if you can survive the early turns where they try to blow up all your mana, you just start making like 4/4s and 6/6s and it's fine. Sure. But you can lose the early game.
Right. All right, so we're 8 rounds in. You said you're 5-3,
I'm
but
5-3.
A huge chunk of the people playing the deck are at the top tables today.
Yeah, so it's doing the matchup thing that Tron does, where like, if you get to the top tables are always, you know, the top tables are going to be full of Junds, they're going to be full of Abzan Companies, they're going to be full of these really good matchups for you. The middle tables can be dangerous because that's where a lot of like your Boggles players are hiding, your Suicide Zoos are. I played Tron last round, not last round, the round before. That's okay. But yeah, so we have, what is it? Matthew Tickle and I were both, I think we're both 5-3 right now with it. We have Max McVitie, Andrew Ellenbogen, who are X1 or X0. Yeah. Andrew was 7-0 going into this round. So
a pretty good showing for the deck.
Yeah, 6 people on it. 3 of them were, one of the guys who's at 6-1, his only 2 game losses are on the day was when he played the guy who's 7-0. So yeah, it's doing well.
All right. Well, the deck looks great. Thanks for joining here in the sideboard.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Indy.